Pretty interesting move since the last time we talked about it. We pretty much ranked the jobs, or more or less talked about the most enticing and the least enticing. Unsurprising, the ones we thought were probably the most enticing have been claimed: the Giants and the Falcons. Now we got the Bills out there and the Ravens, which I'll get to in a little bit. But at that time, those were probably the most appealing gigs up there. But since then, Bills parted ways with Sean McDermott, then kind of burnt the bridge on his way out the door, blaming the coaching staff for the Keon Coleman pick. That was maybe a little unexpected. I thought the parting was less surprising, but figured it would be a little more amicable. He's gotten them so far so many times. It feels like at some point you have to change something, and it is kind of rare territory he's in. 4 teams have won a playoff game 6 years in a row. They're the only one of them to have not won a Super Bowl. So you could see the tension building over there. But I thought it would be a little more friendly of a split given the success that they have had together.
Yeah, it feels like some of these franchises that are that close to the pinnacle of this are the ones that end up the most resentful when they don't get there. And that's sort of how I'm viewing the Bills. I feel like they're an easy team to root for. Everybody loves Josh Allen. I had no ill will towards Sean McDermott through the years. Not surprised he's fired. Almost feel bad he is because, gosh, if that call just flips the coin, we're talking about a completely different scenario right now. But yeah, I agree. This was in a little bit of poor taste for my liking. I'm now looking at the Bills a little sideways. Like, this is the most successful stretch run we've seen in like 20 years from this franchise, and can't be at least a little appreciative of what Sean McDermott's contributions were. What about the Falcons with their hire here? Kevin Stefanski to Atlanta. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we said that was probably the second best job given the offensive personnel, pretty solid defense there. He's really well-rounded. He knows how to coach a team. He's dealt with the Browns, won coach of the year there twice. Got to be one of the hardest things to do. Maybe they just brought him in because of experience doing so, managing complex quarterback situations, which he will have here with Kirk Cousins' contract. Michael Penix Jr. coming back from injury. Does go back to Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, so it could be a little interesting to see how that plays out as far as relationships go. Can't help but wonder if he would have liked to wait a few days, get the chance to coach Josh Allen, or at least the opportunity to interview to coach Josh Allen. It's kind of funny. You think some of these guys who took a job maybe would have liked that, but he should be pretty good there with the offensive setup.
Yeah, both Stefanski and Harbaugh are the two that, to me, I'm like, man, would they have taken this job if they knew Buffalo was coming open? It's kind of crazy to me, but I think he'll be good in Atlanta. I think it'll be only a matter of time before we see Atlanta back in consideration, at least for the playoffs. The Titans made their hire, Robert Saleh. I don't know what it feels to have him back in a head coaching role in the NFL. I feel like he's one of those character coaches. Like, I like my head coaches to be characters, good or bad, but I don't know how well I think this is going to work in Tennessee.
Yeah, he kind of has that Dan Campbell bite your kneecaps off, like fun caricature energy about him. But he'll get a lot of help this time, at least, from whoever he brings over in his staff, and he won't have to deal with the Aaron Rodgers drama like he did in New York or the New York media. So it's definitely a little bit of a softer landing spot for him. Doesn't feel like the most appealing job out there. I'm just kind of wondering if maybe he felt like, because the Niners defense had a few issues this year, even if they were injury related, that he didn't want to maybe miss out on the next cycle. So take it while you can. We'll be interested to see how he develops Cam Ward, though.
That read, I think, is the right one. He's like, if I don't jump now, am I going to be able to jump later? But I think of all the new hires, this is the one whose fit I'm most confused about. I don't think a Robert Saleh offense in Tennessee with these pieces is going to go over all that well. And then Jeff Hafley with Miami. I don't think anyone's going to be able to convince me that Jeff Hafley is a better coach than the coach they just fired in Miami, but I guess we needed a new voice in that locker room. Your thoughts?
You're trading an offensive outlook for a defensive one for the most part. Obviously, he did really good with that in Green Bay. Dolphins badly need that as well. Just kind of a little more in flux here with like personnel issues. What's the deal with Tyreek Hill? Darren Waller, who randomly played a large part of that offense down the stretch as a free agent. Tua, obviously his contract is crazy, and they need to figure out if he's the long-term answer and figure out what to do if he's not. So kind of a lot of moving pieces there. One that moves the needle, I think, less than the others for me. However, he is the first or the only first-time head coach from this cycle so far. So definitely be a hot one to watch. And don't think he'll be in the coach of the year talks next year. I think the Dolphins will take a couple years to turn that around, but they need anything pretty much after how things have kind of soured over there.
He's the one I know the least about, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
pass too much judgment until we see what he looks like as a head coach. But it does just crack me up how these NFL franchises operate, where if something doesn't go wrong or it loses its sex appeal after a couple of years, you just look for the most opposite thing you can possibly find. It's like we have a roster full of offensive pieces that are all explosive, big play guys. We need to figure out how to optimize them. No, let's hire the defensive guy that clearly all of our locker room cancers are going to be upset about when they get paired with him. So I guess a rebuild is coming for Miami. 2 jobs still up for grabs, the Bills and the Ravens. It's interesting to step back. I think we spent so much of this season on this show even looking at the Bills and the Ravens as potential Super Bowl favorites, even as model favorites along the way, largely because of the players on these teams. And, it's a little bit crazy, the franchises that are still competing for a Super Bowl, while these two are now the vacant jobs looking for a head coach. So if you were a head coach, Dave, I want to ask you this. Which job would you rather have, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson's team right now?
I'd take the Bills. I'd take Josh Allen's team. I think you can't really go wrong with the quarterbacks. I do think Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the game right now. But I think you're just getting a little bit more there. The run game, you have Derrick Henry in Baltimore, but he's getting a little older. Wasn't quite as efficient this year. The offensive receiving cores aren't really that different from one another. The Ravens have Isaiah Likely, who's shown some flashes, Zay Flowers, who has some issues, but is very good. So I don't know. It's kind of a coin flip. I think I'd lean Buffalo. But then you got to live in Buffalo. So
it's a fair point. I do like Baltimore. I visited twice, Dave. It's going to break my brain. Like, it'll be fascinating to watch both these teams next season. And if they get back where they were supposed to be this season with just some new leadership in the room. But we'll see who those candidates end up being that fill those jobs.